can't believe the words that are about to come out of my mouth, but The Batman Part 2 is gonna be a Christmas movie. As a matter of fact, it needs to be a Christmas movie. But not only that, it's not merging with James Gunn's DC Universe, and Hush will not be the main villain. And the real main villain might not be who you think. Give us more Bruce Wayne, give us a new bat suit, introduce more iconic Batman characters. Those are just a few things that I think could make The Batman Part 2 perfect. Perfect down to every little detail. And I'm gonna be taking all of these little hints and details that Matt Reeves has been giving us, all these little crumbs, and giving y'all a 5-star meal. Because this is everything we know about The Batman Part 2 so far, and everything we need in The Batman Part 2 to make it a great film. But either way, me and you know what we gotta do. We gotta talk about it. And what really gave me a brain blast was this quote from Colin Farrell, who yet again confirmed that The Batman Part 2 is set to take place a few weeks after the events of The Penguin, which itself took place a few weeks after the events of the first Batman. I remember when that light hit the sky, which means there's a warning. But this timeline leads me to my first item on the wish list. I need a snowy winter aesthetic for The Batman Part 2. I mean, just look at this image right here. Inhale that aura. Simply from an aesthetic perspective, could you imagine getting a shot of Batman perched with neon lights in the background as snow slowly starts trickling down in front of him and around him? Oof. But I also really wanted to take cues to what I personally think is the best visually looking Batman film, Batman Returns, which took place during Christmas. And I mean, just look at how gorgeous this is. But also thematically, the idea of Christmas itself and what that means from a familial perspective could be very interesting to dissect with Bruce Wayne's persona and psyche, which I'll talk about in a second. But staying on the subject of aesthetics, I need Michael Giacchino to return, and I need them to find some way somehow to get Greg Fraser back as the cinematographer. These two helped so much in immersing us into Matt Reeves' new Gotham. Michael Giacchino's the Batman score, it's iconic. Like, just imagine what kind of spins he can do with the new villain, and just getting more graceful with that Bruce Wayne theme. But also, we need Greg Fraser back because I want to see him work with the snow aesthetic. I love the way he used shallow focus in this movie to really highlight the actors' performances. But if they aren't able to get Greg Fraser back, who's going to be working on Doom Part 2 as well as the 4 Beatles movie, the alternative actually isn't all that bad. It should be Michael Saracen, who worked with Matt Reeves on both Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes. And funny enough, in War for the Planet of the Apes, he already worked with a snow aesthetic. These fucking dots are starting to connect. Sticking with aesthetics, I really hope they pull another Nirvana song as a needle drop. And really, there's so many options they can choose from. But my top 2 choices are Come As You Are or Heart Shaped Box. But Drain You, Stay Away would all be great choices. I just want to rock out with my cock out for real. Another reason why I want a snow aesthetic is because it would contrast that red tone of the poster in the movie and give us more blue tones. I like that theme that they're kind of going through different seasons and colors. Finally, on the aesthetics of the film, and I know this is far-fetched and probably already confirmed that it's not happening, but I would really like it if the title was something like Kill the Batman, Heart of the Batman, Mask of the Batman, which actually leads perfectly into my next point, and that's who the main villain should be and the options that we have in front of us. First thing he had to say about the main villain actually narrows down the choices for who could appear in this film, stating that it's never really been done in a movie before. So we can cross all of these options off the damn list. No Two-Face, no Mr. Freeze, no Bane, no Scarecrow, no Ra's al Ghul, but I don't think that necessarily means that none of these characters could appear. But taking it a step further, Matt Reeves confirmed that the villain in the Batman Part 2 will be connected to Bruce Wayne's history and life. So if we treat this like a math equation, the fact that 1, it's never really been done in a movie before, and 2, the villain will be connected to Bruce Wayne's history and life, that really only leaves us with a couple of options. And I'm going to be going from most likely to least likely. And a lot of what he said sounds like Hush. It just makes a whole lot of sense, especially since Hush was already teased in the Batman. He mentioned a hush money deal that Bruce Wayne's father agreed to in the murder of a reporter with the last name Elliot. So they can easily make that a connection to Thomas Elliot, who is Hush. Now, I know the main reason that most people don't want to see Hush is because he's gonna feel really familiar to Riddler from the first movie, and in general, he is a little bit overrated, if I could be honest with you. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is an adaptation. He's not gonna do a one-to-one, if he really is even doing Hush in the first place. But I could trust Matt Reeves and Matt Tomlin to adapt Hush in an incredibly new and refreshing way that also challenges both Bruce Wayne and Batman. Because the Batman Part 2 really should just be dissecting who Bruce Wayne really is underneath that mask. Because another character that came to my mind was the Phantasm, which, as we know, did technically release in a film that released in theaters. So maybe that's what he means by hasn't really showed up in a movie. Maybe they just straight up do Phantasm, and we just get like a pseudo Mask of the Phantasm adaptation for the Batman Part 2, which I think will be fucking fire. Or they could probably take elements of Mask of the Phantasm for Hush. Another likely option is the Court of Owls. Again, depending on how they adapt it, it won't feel too similar to what they did with the Batman, and who's really running Gotham, as we all thought it was Carmine Falcone. Matt Reeves has hinted that this goes even deeper, so look no further than the Court of Owls, who, mind you, have been teased multiple times, and most recently in The Penguin. The courthouse that Oz pulls up to has these very interesting silhouettes that look like what? Owls. And also the fact that we know in the Batman universe, the Waynes and the Arkhams are who technically built Gotham. You just know the Court of Owls has something to say in between those two families. So that could be your personal connection right there. I mean, dog, could you imagine what Matt Reeves does with Talon, the lead assassin of the Court of Owls? Those fight scenes would go stupid. But another option that I could see them adapting is actually Hugo Strange. Considering the fact that he's so heavily tied to Arkham Asylum, perhaps he has something to do with the fact that Martha Wayne, Bruce Wayne's mom, was in and out of Arkham. And maybe he was the one who drove her crazy in the first place. But if you really want to explore the different masks of both Bruce Wayne and Batman, struggling with his trauma and his own mental health, look no further than Hugo Strange as a perfect antagonist to all of that. Honestly, wouldn't even be surprised if we see multiple main villains, not just one. But regardless of who the main villain is, I just know Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin cooked. Outside of the main villain, I do really want to see some side villains and side characters. If we really dive deeper into Arkham Asylum and Hugo Strange, give us little teases that Riddler and Joker are going to be escaping soon. Because the less of these you have, the more valuable they become. But I think one of the most important side characters that I need them to introduce in the Batman Part 2 is Harvey Dent. I mean, we already know that Gotham needs a new DA. So I would really love it if we see Harvey Dent's ascension to DA in this film, and Bruce Wayne building a closer relationship to him to try to tackle justice from the inside out. As for who could play Harvey Dent, there's so many great choices out there. I've seen Oscar Isaac. There was rumors that Boyd Holbrook could be one, which is good. Josh Hartnett resurgence would be fire too. And I would love to see John David Washington be Harvey Dent just so we can get that Tenet connection again. But regardless, start planting the seeds for Two-Face. And please do not lose any type of focus on the best Jim Gordon and Batman dynamic we've ever gotten put to screen. I need more of this. I love them working as good cop, bad chick cop. And as for whether or not they want to introduce Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon or vice versa, I'm fine either way. If they don't introduce them, I'm not going to be mad. If they do introduce them, cool. But I have a feeling James Gunn's going to save them for their DC universe. We obviously already but we obviously already know that Colin Farrell is returning as the Penguin. Hi, name's Oz. In a smaller role, and if he does, I really hope he looks something like this. But also, we can't just ignore the fact that he caused so much mayhem to the criminal underworld and he's building his own criminal empire. Tease that a little bit. Give us a post-credit scene that teases a spinoff between Sofia Gigante and Selena Kyle, who are half-sisters, the daughters of Falcone. And also, while you're at it, Matt, show me their moms, Matt. Where their moms at, Matt? Because I know for a fact Carmine Falcone's genes are fighting for their life. But yeah, and if Catwoman does appear, whether that be in this film, her own spinoff, or a Batman Part 3, have her look something like this. Shout out to Jackson Dirt for this artwork. That man is incredible. Give us more Bella Raelle because it's Jamie Lawson. But also, she could potentially be a love interest to Bruce Wayne. And if they want to do a crazy twist, I'm just saying. But my brother in Christ, if they don't bring back the unsung hero of the Batman, my dog, Officer Martinez, I'm gonna be in your walls, Matt Reeves. It's the way. Another thing that I think the Batman Part 2 needs is more Bruce Wayne. We saw him go through the character arc of struggling with his own mental health, pouring himself into his work. Bruce Wayne was always the mask shoved to the side. He never really utilized that aspect of his life. Because as we all know, Bruce Wayne is the mask, Batman is who he really is. With us already getting the character arc of him going from vengeance to being a beacon of hope, I really hope that he realizes he can do a lot of good as Bruce Wayne, as Bella Raelle told him, which would make a lot of sense with him trying to befriend someone like Harvey Dent to try to tackle the justice system from the inside out, burning both ends of the match. I really just want this to be Mask of the Phantasm in live action. It doesn't need to be the Phantasm villain, but you know what I mean, like how that dissects his character, his psyche, and who he really is. Oh yeah, and get a better trim, bro. Ideally, he looks something like this in the sequel. Which leads me to the bat suit, because I was a big fan of the suit from the first film, and I do think they're going to be making some changes to this suit, but I don't think they're going to be major changes. In an ideal and just world, we would get a blue and gray suit like this with gold accents, but sadly, James Gunn is probably saving this for his DCU Batman. Instead, I'd totally be okay with something like this, just making that gray green a little bit more dark black, and really ideally it looks something more like this artwork right here. This right here would be perfect for this version of Batman. I also need that brother moving like Michael Myers, looking like Count Dracula with a big ass cape, moving like a horror villain. And at some point we need to see him perched on a ledge like this with the snow coming down. Come on. Now, I'm not opposed to white eyes in live action. In fact, I do think some of the edits for the Batman specifically look fire, but at least to me personally, the white eyes would ruin everything that made Robert Pattinson's performance as the Batman great. He did so much eye acting in that movie that's what I was mostly impressed by. He was acting through his makeup and mask. He would give an expression, a look, and you understand immediately what was going on through his mind, what he was feeling. So having him have white eyes the entire time he's Batman would be kind of a miss. I wouldn't mind if they go the temporary route like we've seen in the Dark Knight trilogy or Zack Snyder's movies. Just a quick little scene like that would be cool, but not the entire runtime, please. We also need an expansion of his artillery, because my brother in Christ, he ain't got enough gadgets for my taste. I want to see him have hella batarangs saying random bullshit go. Shark repellent spray, fuck it. I obviously need more action scenes with the Batmobile, but I also want him to upgrade the Batmobile to look more like a Batmobile. I do love the souped up muscle car look, and this is probably the Batmobile with the most aura if we can keep it above. Just get a little bit bit more fantastical with it. You know, it ain't never hurt nobody. And keep that shit separate from James Gunn's DC Universe, Matt Reeves. I know you've said it ad nauseum that it is not, and that it continues to be an Elseworlds project, so I'm hoping and praying that stays the case. Even though I wouldn't mind seeing David Corn Sweat and Robert Pattinson's Batman interact, just keep that shit through the multiverse. Oh yeah, and as for the runtime of this movie, I think it would be great if it was 6 or 7 hours long. But that's just what I want to see in the Batman Part 2 that I think would make it perfect. Let me know what you want to see in the Batman Part 2, and let me know what you think about my thoughts, theories, and opinions down in the comments below. And as always, like and follow for more.